Well, we're back. I'm Pastor Bruce Wall. I'm in the studio after having a great breakfast. I had a cheese omelet with little bacon in it, and I had a nice a drink, a beverage. I had lemonade, and I got that from the local store. I picked that up, and I was concerned, Ron, that you were going to be at the door and I was going to be late.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up my food, I ate my food, and you still weren't here. So I'm so thankful. And Renee is the station manager. She runs the station.
Mm.
But both of you were late today, and I'm trying to get the staff here on time. I'm trying to get the other broadcasters here on time. We'll give you a pass because you don't live as close to the church as you did before.
I don't know why you're putting that in the atmosphere like that, because you called me and told me you were running late. So I
well, I didn't want you waiting at the door in case it was raining outside or snowing.
Well, I didn't want to wait at the door,
right?
Because I probably would have turned around and went back home. But good morning, welcome to Boston Black News. We're here on this Friday morning. It's actually nice outside.
It's gonna get better. And by the way, you didn't say we're on. We're in 50 cities. 982.
No, it's
what is it?
Now you're making me mess up. It's 351 cities.
351 cities and
50
towns.
states.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down and have it as a
7
script.
continents.
Okay.
And 22 neighborhoods.
Uh-huh.
And 110 sub neighborhoods.
Okay, but how do we know that what you're saying is actually true, though?
Why don't you Google it?
Okay, what do I Google?
You don't know how to Google?
No. What's the question? How
many cities are in Boston? How many neighborhoods in the city of Boston?
Okay.
Which will break it down to the sub neighborhoods.
Okay.
You know how many states? Oh yeah, you didn't go to you didn't go to geography class.
I skipped that. Okay. I was in music class.
Was you in mechanics? You went to Bright Night, so you would probably.
No, I wasn't in the mechanic. I was in the.
And then the 7.
I was in the law student section. But go ahead.
Yeah, so you can Google all that. It's for those of us who went to school. We know that.
I went to school. I didn't study, but I went to school.
Okay.
I'm doing pretty well for a guy who didn't study. One of the things that I wanted to bring up before we got into all this, all the news, I feel proud that Larry Wu is still with us through the introduction, through the song.
Yeah.
And so not just that song. We have at least 3 or 4 songs that are his, you know. And he lives on. And I really like the song. It's not just the beat. I listen to the words.
Right.
And every time I hear it, and a lot of the reporters that have come in, the black reporters, they don't know the song. And they're sitting waiting for the broadcast to start, and they're listening. And I see the song is resonating with them. So I appreciate the fact that you approached Larry Wool and asked him to do this. You didn't give him any specifics other than, I need this song for Black News. You didn't say, I want this included, I want that included. Did you just let him come up with his own creation?
For Larry Wu has done numerous songs, in particularly for Dunk the Vote. And what I would normally do is give him an idea what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Like a theme or a message. And then he would just, he was a musical genius, and it's interesting that you bring that up because on Priscilla Flint's broadcast, People Power, Danielle Ruffin, the woman who sings,
was here.
She was here, right?
Wait a minute,
that's the woman who's on Boston Black News theme song.
Because Priscilla said yes.
Yeah.
Priscilla, she was here sitting right there. Priscilla said to her, "I love your voice," and she's singing at some of the Kwanzaa celebrations this week.
Right.
But I thought maybe she was going to pop a few songs when she was in here because I've never heard of her, and I couldn't tell by the way she talked. But if that's the young lady that's singing "Good News Doesn't Sell," that's her.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's her voice. Yeah. When I seen that, because I've actually been looking for her because I want to make sure that I get her all the belongings of Larry. Because I have a bunch of CDs that he wanted to sell
Wow.
of, like Still Marching. He did that song for the Million Man March, and then he actually converted that into a song for Dunk the Vote, and then he did a couple other songs for Dunk the Vote. He's done songs with various candidates I've worked for, including former city councilor Tito Jackson, gubernatorial candidate Evan Falchek. He's done. Every time I've actually done something, primarily, we've had a little song in there, kind of, jazz it up to kind of get people engaged, keep them, we love music, and music is very important.
I feel honored that, again, we're a part of his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
His memory will live on through the music here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself the other day when I was thinking about this, I said, who does Ron go to now if he wanted to have music? I think I know who you would go to.
Who? Tell me.
Grammy Award winner.
Yeah. Prince Charles Alexander. He actually was the one who did the mixing of the last couple of songs for Dunk the Vote and Boston Black News. So yes, I will. Thanks for reminding me that.
And he's a professor?
Yeah, he's a professor at Berkeley College, and he also is an alum of Boston Latin School, and he was the Alumni of the Year. He got the President's Award, or the Alumni of the Year, the highest honor that gets given out by the Boston Latin. He received that award, outstanding student. I forgot exactly what the award is, but it's the top award. But I just haven't thought about that because I'm still listening to these songs. When I listen to his songs, I feel he's still here.
Yeah, that always happens.
Yeah, and it's been 30 years. We're celebrating 30 years for Dunk the Vote.
Yeah.
And we lost 3 people this year, 3 key people. Larry Wu, Florella Orion, who was our graphic artist, strategic, policy person, as well as Sid Topa, who's one of our major donors, who's the founder of the Cable Box. He was also an alum of Boston Latin.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's been a tough year, man. It's been very challenging for us with Dunk the Vote, but we're still plugging away. We had some of our folks here last night at the Christmas dinner, which was awesome. The Christmas season dinner, where we were able to feed the community, and it was really good for us to.
Do you know people kept coming in?
Yeah, it was good.
It was like a wave of people coming in, and even when it was just about 5 minutes to the time it was supposed to be over, some people were coming. But I want to talk about one person, a 84-year-old woman who saw the flyer in Carbon Square.
Wow.
And decided to come to the dinner. 84.
Wow.
When she was here early, she stayed until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was walking out, and I followed her because I wanted to know who was picking her up, wanted to make sure she was okay. She walked across the street to the bus stop at 84 years old at 7:15 or 7:30. So I said, no. So I went over there, and I said, I'll stand. I didn't want to scare her, so because she's by herself, right? A little food bag in her hand, like us seniors. And I said, I'm Pastor Bruce. She says, I know you. She says, I come to your church on occasion. I said, well, where you going? Someone picking you up? He said, no, I'm going to take a bus. I'm going to either Galavan Boulevard, and then my house is around there. I said, well, I'm going to wait with you. I said, do you have the bus transportation schedule on your phone? She was laughing. What's so funny? I don't do that. I have a phone, but I don't know how to do that. I said, okay, I'm going to go into the church. I'm going to get my phone, and we're going to find out what time the bus is coming. Because if it was going to be prolonged, I was going to grab you. Right. I think it was you. I was going to ask Ron. I'm not going by myself, but we're going to take her home.
Right.
While I was in the church, her son happened to pull up because he got off work early. His nephew, and she came back into the church. 84 years old, from across the street, came back in, breathing heavy. I'm okay. Okay, my nephew's here. That to me, 84 years old, came out to eat, stayed for the whole event, taking the bus home. there must have been something here drawing her for her to do that all by herself.
Right. It's a testament to the church because so often the church gets a bad rap, and this was definitely an example of the church in action doing its social gospel.
Yeah.
And there was one individual who came up to me. It was a brother who had his children with him, and he came up to me and was like, "Thanks, Ron, man. You just don't know, bro. To have this hot meal and to be in fellowship." He had lost a child a few years ago, and when you hear these stories, it really brings comfort.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's and it's also demonstrates what ministry should be.
Right.
It wasn't like all churchy. It was people were ordinary people that came in. There was another incident of a gentleman who had issues with drugs, and he, there was some effort made to get him in treatment.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just a number of things that happened, and in our Sister Zakia Alaki, she had pointed out, look at the sisters over there, to see them black women serving you food and serving, the community food. It was it was really.
One of the things that came up about the serving is that, and again, I learned a lot in this taking place. They said, we're not going to have a buffet. And I said, why not? That's the easiest way to do it. They said, because some of the folk that come in may have been institutionalized.
Right.
And they're used to people just putting the food on their plates in a line. Why don't we serve them? Mm-hmm. And so, it twisted my thinking a little bit. And I said, yeah, it's a good idea. People who stay there, you go over, express the dignity, ask them what they want, and then go back and continue to care for them. Mm-hmm. Because it was a time not just to eat, but to bring hope.
Right.
How do you bring hope? Part of it is that we laughed so much when you and Karen were hosting it.
It was funny.
I mean, you and Karen...
your wife, Karen.
My wife, Karen.
Right.
You both...
What happened?
I'm not going anywhere.
You ain't going anywhere? Where were you going to go after you eat your breakfast?
No, somebody else thought that there was another Karen here that maybe you had brought and you two were doing something together. But anyway, my wife and you two were going back and forth, and people, it's like a ping pong game. I didn't
even realize that.
Yeah, because she would say something, and then her voice would go soft, and you thought she was done, so you started talking. And then her voice, she didn't say, "Ron, I'm not finished." She just went right back up, stepping over you. She does that all the time.
Oh, you cut me off.
Right. And but finally, you got in, you did what you had to do. She put her mic down. People enjoyed you two going back and forth because it was respectful, it was funny, and it like you say, it wasn't boring. Nobody was preaching to anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? No one was asking them about their faith. The young man that you had mentioned, he came over to my table. Mm-hmm. His tears were flowing down his face. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he was going to be able to eat, and he kept grabbing his forehead. And we found the ladies came over. They served him, gave him water, gave him a Pepsi, whatever he wanted, and he did eat. Mm-hmm. And then he wanted to charge his phone, and I think his sponsor or somebody came to talk with him. I said to myself, that's what we should be doing. And there was a lady in the church, when it was all over, we had so much food left.
Right.
There was a lady that bagged up, I thought I saw 15 or 20 bags, and she went out to the street, and she was delivering those meals to people that she came across in the neighborhood. People that she knew that were homeless, and other people that were on the street who could use a meal, and they all took it. To me, we achieved not just what we had planned, but we went a little above that. And the only way we went above that is, and I'm learning this lesson, I didn't want to do this because we had just finished Thanksgiving. People were tired. You got services coming up this week. I said, let's give the people a break.
Plus, you had Christmas Day,
Yeah, it was a lot, right? But when I saw the church crew come out with no reservation, then we have the Zetas came out with no reservation. They told Karen they really enjoyed serving and being here. To me, all we have to do is God gives you something. Believe that God gave it to you.
Right.
And just stand in the gap, and then God will do all the other work. You don't have to do all the work. Just do what He's told you to do, and He'll fill the seats. He'll bring people in. And that's another lesson that I learned. But every time I don't want to do something, I didn't plan to do this. This is getting in the way of other things I want to do. No, it's you doing what God wants you to do. Come apart from that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stand and believe. Believe God for what He's going to do. We will not know. We will probably not know for a long period of time what really happened on yesterday, because even the elected officials, especially Aaron Murphy,
City Councilor Aaron Murphy at large,
mm-hmm. and City Council President Ed Flynn, and Ruthie came later, but Ed Flynn, when he spoke and when Aaron spoke, they were relaxed. You know, they didn't dress up. They were just like in the groove with us. Their hearts were speaking, not just a political thing, but their hearts were speaking.
And also, Aaron Murphy brought her whole staff.
Yeah, that was amazing.
They were like, "Wow, we've never been in
the same room together
at an event all together. We're normally all over the city, and you know, and some of their staff were so respectful, and that's important. And for me, it was a good opportunity for me to introduce the city councilors and state rep, Brandy Fluker Oakley,
yeah.
She came as well, to the community,
yeah.
so they can know who they are,
right,
and they can have access to them,
right.
And so I was able to allow them to, you know, tell who they were and to give the contact information, so they don't have to go through me.
And I'm glad you did that, because I'm glad you were the one doing that, because some people could either mess that up or ask them to do the wrong thing or not give them guidance as to what they should do. You were strong enough and respected enough to interrupt them if you needed to, if people were going to go on and on and on. That didn't happen.
Mm-mm.
All of them were in the flow,
right,
of what. And so, like you say, City Councilor Erin Murphy had her staff here. Now, Julia Mejia, was that one of her staff people?
She had a representative here because she's actually out of the country. She's on vacation.
So her representative was not intimidated at all. Her personality was bubbling, no. Very outgoing. Yeah, I'm here. That
That's
was the young lady,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know her?
No, I don't know her. She actually runs a civic engagement.
Oh.
I just met her. I've talked to her on the phone, but I never met. I've actually talked to a number of them on the phone, but I never met them. Lisa Searchy, who works for Councilor Murphy, I know her from Real Talk for Change from MIT. So, but yeah, it was really a good time. I had a really good time to be amongst the community. It was really a good.
Well, we actually have a caller. Let's see who's on the other line. It might be City Councilor Aaron Murphy. Caller, go ahead. You're live.
No, it's former and failed city council candidate Jamal.
Jamal crazy. You are crazy, Jamal.
I mean, well, those are just facts. You know, I like to talk to facts. That's a fact.
That's a fact. I mean? You the man.
I failed. Okay. Your cousin beat me up real bad.
Don't you start. Don't stop. Don't break him up.
No, he beat me with the vote. I was a better candidate, but he got more votes.
Okay. I wonder who helped him on his campaign.
Look, exactly. Right. And you cheated because you had a Larry Moose song. I can't compete with the Tito slide.
The Tito slide. Vote Tito Jackson.
That was really, he had the Tito slide.
No, you're not making it up.
That was a real song.
Yeah. Real song. And a real dance.
Wow. we
in a video.
We had Priscilla on the line. She wanted to tell us who that young lady was who represented Julia Mejia. Go ahead, Priscilla.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was Barry Martin's daughter.
Oh.
Maybe she said her name.
What her name?
Yeah, remember she said, I'm Sarah Lawton. I think that's her first
I
name.
didn't hear it. It was too much going on for
I
me.
didn't know that. She's so tall.
She is tall. Well, Barry's
Yeah.
Oh,
tall.
Barry's
Well,
tall.
Oh, like a father.
Yeah, yeah.
Is she younger than the son who was on the radio with him? Is she younger or she's older?
They're twins.
Oh,
That's
that's
right.
right.
They're
Oh,
twins. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
oh, that's expensive.
I know. Two at one time, man. That's a lot. Woo!
Especially
You got to
lifting.
space it out.
Especially when it's a male and a female.
Yeah, right. Because you can't even cheat on the clothes. You got to get two different sets of clothes.
That's funny.
And learn how to do your daughter's hair.
Exactly.
My daughter talks about that all the time. Dad, you sent me to school with braids that you created. She said, Dad. She said, Dad. She was telling me how bad a job I did with the braiding.
Yeah. Thank
That's
God.
an art. You gotta know what you're doing there. Otherwise,
Hey,
you know.
Pastor, I was horrible. That's the one failure as a father. You know, I pride myself in being such a great father. I was such a failure with the hair. But look, I got a cheat code because you know who my mama is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man.
My mother's a hairdresser.
He's a hairdresser.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. I wouldn't want if my mother was a hairdresser, I would not want her to see my child's hair. Cause I put the grease in it and comb it. I tried the braids, man. For some reason, I couldn't get it.
Yeah,
I just couldn't get it.
You
Yeah.
could have threw in some ponytails. That would have took care of it. 2 ponytails on the side.
But you got to make sure the part is straight.
Oh, yeah, you got to make sure that pot is straight.
Wait a minute. This is supposed to be a pot?
Yo, boy.
Jamal, we failed.
Exactly. I had my daughter just with the straight slick back. She was looking like an LA gang member.
Oh, did she talk about it when she got older about how you took care of her hair?
I mean, we could see some pictures, but like I said, like when I would get her up and try to do something, I was basically doing something to get her to my mother, or when it was time for braids, because my mother don't do the braids either. Then I had some, sister friends who helped me out. You know what I mean? A couple of my homegirls who took care of her a couple of times, and then one of their little nieces who braids hair, gave her all the little styles she wanted and all that. So we got her hooked up, but I was terrible. You know what I mean? I was terrible.
I have to confess.
Listen, I called in on a serious thing because y'all were talking about the dinner, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about some of the political candidates some of the elected officials, city councilors, who were in attendance.
Yeah.
And times like these, where everybody's feeling the warm and the fuzzies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Holiday, it's that time of year,
Yeah.
right? These type of relationships, I think, have to be used, and not used like in a bad, manipulative, negative way, but used in a good and positive way, to actually ask these people to come to the table to have these conversations about race. Because, for instance, right now, both Ed Flynn and Councilor Murphy are kind of racial lightning rods, if you will, and they are seen as part of the old school stalwart, right?
Yeah.
But here they are in a black church,
Yeah.
in the black community,
Yeah.
with, a variety of people, and they could have dinner, they can make nice, as you say, to shake the hands, to kiss the babies and all that. But at some point, too, we take the pictures, but we also have to then, at some point, say, hey, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Murphy, we have this large looming, 10-ton elephant in the room. We'd like to discuss, so if you can come back at another time, and talk turkey. Not eat turkey, but we're going to talk turkey.
And that's a point well taken.
It sure is.
In my opinion, because one of the things that happened last night is that a young man came in, and he was strung out, and he was crying. He was broken, and I sat at the table with him, and we got him some food. He ate. He was feeling better. Wanted to charge his phone. And then his sponsor came in, and they were trying to find a place for him to go, because he had been in a tent and the state police tore the tent up, harassed him. Yeah. So Erin Murphy spent just the remaining hour of her time here, and her staff calling to try to find a place for him to go and get him the help that he needs. They did it. It took time.
Yeah.
I thought Erin was going to go on the porch and just say hi to the young man and keep walking. She closed that door, and her staff They did it. I said, if you can do it for him, if you can do this, if this is what you can do, you have the potential of doing, we got to drill down on that. Because I appreciate what she did and how she did it.
Well, and see, and more than that, see, this shows the glimpse of humanity that we often don't get to see. Because if you just watch a city council hearing, or you just read an article in the Globe or the Herald, you know, these people are just images on a TV screen or a computer screen and whatnot. You fail to remember, or you fail to see them demonstrate their humanity. Right? Yeah. And then particularly if it's in a polarized situation, you could just easily say, oh, they ain't nothing, they're against us, that's the enemy, you know, and you don't see the humanity in them. But these people do have a heart, you know. We may not agree on all the issues, but people have a heart and a care and a concern. They are in the business of public service. So I think that we have to massage that a little bit more, and not just on the issues of like you know, drug addiction and response to that, and homelessness and mental health and all those type of things. Because some of those, although they're very complicated issues, those are easier for people to say, because nobody is like, I think people should be hungry, or I think people should be homeless. Everybody, you know, agrees that we need to do something. What we need to drill down on really are the harder issues where there is less agreement on issues like race and how resources are doled out. Those are some of the conversations we need to have.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear. And now, and one of the things that I was very impressed with, because I had the opportunity to show people who they were, right? And when Ed Flynn gave his remarks, he explained what constituency services is, and I was like, you got to get on the broadcast, because you know it's like a lot of our elected officials do not understand that's your priority, right? You know, all this Facebook, what do you call it, performance politics and all that stuff. People don't even know who they are. Do you know all 13 city councilors?
If I go to the webpage and read all their names on occasion, I can keep it in my brain.
Yeah, but folks don't even know. I'm telling you, they after COVID, people do not, even before COVID, a lot of folks didn't know who their city councilors were and didn't know what a state the difference between a state rep, city councilor, U.S. senators, state senator. They just don't know, right? And for him to explain that was really good. I thought he was right on point. Very simple, basic, and they deliver for their people.
But you know what, though, too? That's also a testimony to the old school thing, because why so many people don't know is just what you explained.
Exactly.
It's a generational breakdown. Back in the day, you know, people used to write letters. Remember letters?
Yep.
You know, people used to call on the phone, like a real phone, where you had to dial, and, you know, and people would respond, and there were voicemails and all this type of stuff. So over the years, even though now we have more of a social media network and everybody has access to everybody instantly,
right?
The chance for communication increased, but the level of communication that we're doing decreased. Right? So now people who are in love aren't writing letters to each other. People aren't writing letters to politicians and whatnot. And because Ed Flynn, of course, you know, looks just like his daddy, right? That. And you know, and is an old school guy himself. They came up with that thing where you had to hit the pavement, you had to knock on doors, you had to go to the meetings, you had to be responsive. Now, a lot of the newfangled people who are running for office or currently in it, I think that they can govern by tweet or by TikTok or by YouTube or whatever, and it's just not the same.
It's not working.
Right. We also have T. Michael Thomas just called in. Priscilla, you go ahead, and then T. Michael.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you can't get government done by tweeting. That's ridiculous. You know, you have to be able to talk to your constituents, not a tweet, because how many of us actually do tweet or have a tweet and know what a tweet is? So, you know.
It's interesting you said that, because when Councilor Flynn said you can reach me online, I said, give a phone number.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's not online. So we want to make sure folks have access to you. Give them your number that works, where somebody's going to pick up the phone, which, again, Aaron Murphy's office do that.
Right.
And I talked to a city council who did not make it last night, and she said there was no one in City Hall. Now I understand this vacation week, this, that, whatever, and we're somewhat still in a pandemic, but there's a lot of folks still working hybrid, and it's really too bad.
Yeah. T. Michael?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The point I wanted to bring is that when you approach the city on different programs to be funded, there is always an excuse, either what money, tell us where what money is there, blah, blah, blah. Let's just focus on the linkage money alone. Look at all the construction that's going on in the city of Boston. Where is all that money has been going, and where is it now? So there goes a pool of money that the councilor and our representative need to focus on, that black and brown community could finally get some of that benefit that was allocated for generations. That's the point I wanted to make. That's it.
Well, let me just say this to you, Michael, not to your point, but to what you said to me when I picked up the phone. You said to me, "Is this broadcast live?" And I said yes. And we have to apologize for not having a lot of live broadcasts. It's just been a very tiring 3 or 4 weeks for us. But we're going to try to find a way to get funding so that we can have our broadcasters committed to being here live, so we can have these conversations. Thanks.
Well, Pastor, can I say one last thing?
Sure.
My offer still stands. I'll put up $100, and for every person that has ran for office, and whether they win or not, match me with that 100, because I've used this platform, Boston Praise, to get my point across about the People's Academy.
Yeah.
They have won. A lot of them has been in office, has collected a paycheck, so they can match my 100 towards the radio station.
This is being recorded, so we'll put that out. We appreciate that.
Great
Cash
show,
App,
and I will be listening. Thank
Cash
you.
App, BPR TV, right?
Yeah.
Boston Black News. No, BostonPraiseRadio.tv. That's how you can give.
Thank you, T. Michael.
So, point well taken. That was one of the issues I had raised during the time I was emceeing the event, to get to know your city councils so that you can access services and resources from the city hall. You hear about all this money coming in, federal money, and folks in the black community is not getting it.
Yeah.
So I think that this was a good start.
If we could find the money to upgrade our kitchen, because there are a lot of the people in the church who want to do that. They want to put a focus on that. We will start doing more once the health department comes in and says everything's okay. We'll start doing more to provide food and resources for folk in the community. But I want to take a page out of Larry Ellison's book. Larry doesn't just want to give things away. He wants to empower people. And he says, if you're giving out sneakers or giving out food, people are here. If you ask them to register to vote or go vote, he says the numbers are much smaller. How can we combine the two? How can we give something, but have a guarantee that these folk are going to register, they're going to vote, they're going to come to a civics class? How do we do
them
that?
right there on the spot. Register them right there on the spot. You could have the cards, or either they could go right on their phone and register right then and there.
I think more so, a lot of these things we've already discussed in the past.
Right.
And it's not about, like, what should we do. It's like, when we going to do it? When we going to execute?
Right.
All right, so we've talked many times. So first of all, one of the reasons that people don't vote is, to Ron's point, they don't even know who to vote for.
Are. Yeah.
They a city council, a state rep, a Congress. They don't know none of it. They don't know when the election is. They don't know none of where to go.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah.
So we need to start with a reason. Give people a reason to want to vote, to get excited about the process.
Right.
This is why originally when Ron Bell's thing came out, that's why it was so successful, because it was exciting. And, and he was able to use the basketball tournaments and other things to generate that level of excitement. But we have to get our people really engaged and really wanting to vote. And then too, as you know, with city council and them, they just passed a thing where people are now supposed to be able to vote at 16, which I think is, I don't agree with that. Well, they voted yes. Now I don't know what happens now, if it has to get approved by the state or whatever. But it went through there, and I think that's a mistake for a multitude of reasons. But one of those reasons is the numbers are going to go down more.
Yeah, you're right.
You think a 16-year-old kid gives a doggone about voting for your old fogey stogie stuff? They don't care.
Jamal, I thought they were able to register, but they still couldn't vote until they're 18.
That's even worse. That's even worse. That they can register and they can't vote. What's the point in registering? So they can when
they turn 18, they'll already be registered, and all they gotta do is go vote.
I have to. Let me just say this. I have to admit I backed off registering people to vote for a while, and I'm going back to it, and for the simple fact that I kept hearing people say, "Ron, you're registering all these people, but you're not turning them out." And I said to myself, and I felt real bad, because it was like, Dad, you know what? You're right about that. And so I kind of backed up, but then I see the voting plummeting. And see, a lot of folks don't realize in the year 2000, we were very successful as far as voter turnout. It got overshadowed because of the Florida non-recount, Chad Dimple's unreliable polls. The NAACP, Dunk the Vote, Boston Vote, all these different groups came together, and we set a goal to increase voter turnout by 5%, because it was a 20-year plummeting of voter turnout. And we got it up to 20%. That story's not told. And so, of course, time went on. I went into the governor's office. Dunk the Vote kind of was put on the shelf because all the staff that we had went into the administration. And we realized that all these groups that say they were doing the work was not doing the work. So, but yet getting resources from the Boston Foundation with the Civic Engagement Initiative and different other groups. And, I'm not blaming anyone, and I take full responsibility for it. But I am going back to going hard, registering people, not 16-year-olds so much. They need to be taught, just like some of our elders and adults need to be taught about this process, government, because it's not taught in school, it's not taught at kitchen tables anymore, because families don't eat like they used together anymore. It's a different animal that we're dealing with. So, Priscilla, you were getting ready to say something around the civic engagement? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Well, I was going to plug my Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute, of course.
Okay, well, why don't we do that later on? No, sir.
Right. So what
I'm messing with you. I knew you was going to plug it, but go ahead.
Of course I'm going to plug it. Listen, so what I want to say about the 16-year-olds voting, right? They're allowed to drive cars at 16. They are allowed to drop out of school at 16. So why can't they be taught to vote and the importance of vote at 16?
So for me, taxes, ownership, finances. I mean, to me, to put in the ability to vote. Like when I was a kid, I don't know if people still have to do it, but you had to register for selective service at the age of 18. You had to fill out that thing in the post office and all that, right?
The draft.
Yeah, I guess that's what it's for. See, I didn't even know what selective service was. I don't know, and it didn't matter, because if I got drafted, I wasn't going. I was already in the war on Humboldt Avenue, please.
I think they stopped that.
I don't know.
We all were.
My point is, they have certain hoops that you're supposed to jump through, little benchmarks you're supposed to reach, and there's no knowledge given about it. So, to the whole plan and the point of what I was talking about before, voter education and political education, if these kids had to take as a requirement of graduation, civics was somewhere in that curriculum. Maybe they took it in the 10th grade, 11th grade, or whatever, and then by the 12th grade, now you get to register to vote, on coming out. That to me would make a lot more sense.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just to willy-nilly say 16-year-olds get to vote, I think you're going to see a lot more blank votes. I think you're going to see a lot more. They might vote for Chief Keef. We might end up with Cardi B for mayor.
That's
okay?
right.
So you got to be careful.
Especially because that's one of the things I said. Well, if you don't like the candidate, just write a name in, and that's not going to work. That's not helpful.
Right.
Look at that 18-year-old that just won mayor in Earl, Arkansas. He was 18 years old. But I know they don't have a lot of people, but still.
Where's this at?
And also too, and that's an anomaly. Not to say a young person couldn't win, or look, if there was a 16-year-old, to Ron's point, if that thing did go through and they were able to register at 16, if you are that little kid who's really involved in politics and you're the president of your political club in the high school, whatever, and you're 16 and you've been waiting for this since you're 13, like, man, I want to vote. Now that kid should not be denied. Now, see, that's the travesty.
That's different.
If that kid who's excited about voting at 16 and serious about it does not get the opportunity to vote until he's 18, now that's a waste, right? But that's also an anomaly. That's not the norm. The norm of, as you know, 16-year-old kids too, and particularly today's 16-year-old. We are competing with a level of distraction, and I would love to believe that the level of political involvement is there, and I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in, like, because they see Black Lives Matter or they see these kids out there, da-da-da-da. But you can't organize them. It's to Ron's point, registering versus turnout,
Right.
right? So you can get a lot of people to rah-rah, shish, boom, bah. When it comes time to show up for this one concerted goal, that is a very another level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because they got to be, like you said, they got to have a reason to want to do it.
Well, I mean, just to be transparent, I mean, during the time when Trump and Hillary was running for president, I got so discouraged I couldn't even ask anyone to register to vote. I mean, it just got to a point. It was so I became very cynical, and I was like, "Dag, if I'm feeling this way, I can imagine someone who's not politically involved. I can imagine how they must feel." And, when I'm on the campaigns, when I'm working campaigns, I really get to see those on the bottom of the barrel. Like, you look at the services in Roxbury, Dorchester, and not as much as Mattapan, certain parts of Mattapan. I mean, the grounds, folks who don't even clean out the sewages. When you're door knock, you see all this. And then you go down Back Bay and these other places, it's so much different, even in West Roxbury.
Well, let me tell you, last winter, we hired a contractor who shovels out and plows out the church. And so last winter, I drove to the church knowing that the guy had been there, does a great job, and I couldn't drive into the driveway, so I couldn't get in. So I called him and said, "You did a great job on the sidewalks, the stairs, the property, but why are the driveways still blocked?" He said, "Pastor, I put hours on both of those driveways, opened them up, and it was the city's snowplow that came and put it all back in." And so I hate to tell you this, but I picked up the phone. No, I sent an email to every city councilor explaining what had happened. Do you know that years ago that the mayors, the elected officials made sure that some of these churches that had all these people got plowed out were taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of people that come to these churches. Erin Murphy was the first one who called me back. She called the city. The city came back and took care of it. And then all the other city councilors. And I said, it's been a long time since I've had to pick up the phone and call a city councilor to do anything for me, because I usually do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'm going to lean on these constituency services, because this is what they're supposed to be doing. Not just that, but more. And maybe we need to have a list of things. When we do civic engagement, I'm going to make an announcement here. Ron and I are actually going to do, I see it, I have to stop. Renee just came into the studio and told me that I have "People Power" with Priscilla as the title of this broadcast, I'm going to change that right now.
Because she wanted to make sure her institute's announced, so we had to put that up.
Oh, okay, that's why we did it. But Ron and I are going to have a once-a-month political rally.
Right.
We're going to start this, and as soon as I talk to my wife, it's going to be the second Saturday in January, and we're going to start it here in the studio.
Is that January 14th?
January 14th, and then we're going to grow it out of the studio, because we need to have a list of the things that people should be calling their city councilors about. People need to know what they do. Go ahead.
So now that's a perfect example right there, because what I'm trying to interject here is not just on the issue, but a different way of approaching it, a different mindset. Mm-hmm. So you just pointed out a problem with snow plowing, right? Before that, Ron was talking about the differences in the community, like, garbage and just the way things is. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take those two issues. Let's take snow plowing and sanitation. Counselors such as Flynn and Murphy, who are heavy constituent-minded, as well as the counselors who also represent our communities, our own Black and Latino people who've known about these issues for a long time. But see, sometimes you got to get the other people to see the same problem the way that you do.
Right. Yeah.
So rather than, snow plowing at your church was messed up, let's tackle the larger issue of how snow is plowed differently in poor communities and communities of color than it is elsewhere.
Right.
Or the same with the garbage.
Right.
In my neighborhood, some of the crews, take your garbage thing and fling it down the Delgon Street, and sometimes there'd be more garbage when they left than was there when they came. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a different level of care and concern than when you're in a certain part of the city and others. The snow, we've all done it. We've dug our car out. I'm a guy, I was trained early. I don't just put like a little path in the sidewalk. I do the sidewalk from curb to curb, the whole sidewalk.
The whole sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, and I do my my car, and I dig it out thoroughly and all that. And then of course what happens, the snowplow comes and
put it
back on,
so and then now you have another pile of now the hard, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so the point is, this happens a lot in our communities, where even too, there's been times where they will store the excess snow or what have you, or push it in areas in our community. You see what I mean?
That's right.
So you'll have mountains of snow somewhere that are just left there.
Right.
And particularly, I think it was last winter when it was cold, some of that stuff didn't melt till like March, almost April.
Right.
So we should talk in my opinion, we should try to tackle the larger issues about disparate services, about how something as simple as trash that should be uniform throughout the city, or snow plowing that should be uniform throughout the city, how there are disparities even in the most basic of city services.
And that should be a part of equity, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, because a lot of folks don't even know what that means.
And not just equity, but actually, exactly equity.
Right.
Because to that thing of, the equity is not just giving everybody the same thing.
Right.
Because that image of the people over the fence. Well, if you're already 6'9", you don't need a booster seat to get over the fence, to see over the fence, right? The person who's short might need 2 booster seats. The person who's in the middle might need 1, whatever. So you have to make it equitable for whatever you're dealing with. Now, here in, let's say, Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester, one of the things, too, is we also have the highest concentration and most dense population, which equals more trash. We produce more garbage because there's more people living on top of each other in these big buildings and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that should equal more services, not less services.
True.
Right? Same thing with the parking. More dense. We got more cars. So when it's time to snowplow, places like Roxbury, and particularly areas like Blue Hill Avenue and these types of things, which is a thoroughfare, the main vein in the city, these places should be taken care of, I don't want to say first, but in a priority order and with the highest quality service available to meet the needs of all of the traffic. They've already done the studies. The most traffic falls right through the corridor. That's why it's through with the buses and everything else. Oh, and by the way, too, let's not let the MBTA off the hook. They need a whole world
overhaul,
digging out all their shelters and their bus stations. It's egregious.
Right.
Boy, it just sounds like we need to be setting these priorities and working on them. It's almost like these are priorities. It's also like setting a black agenda and working on it and staying on it until you get everything done. There's just so much we're going to do. And I'm hoping that when we start these rallies, if Karen gives me permission, when we start these rallies, we need to outline what they should look like for the entire year, the people we want to bring in, the topics we want to have, and show outcome measurements. Have people grown as a result of being here at the rallies and listening to the rallies? How do we hold them accountable for showing up and doing something based on what we teach them, or doing nothing and still showing up? We've got to really design this the right way. We want outcomes.
Well, one of the things Councilor Ruti had mentioned, City Council at large, she was in attendance as well. She came towards the end of the event, and she had talked about jobs, because there's so many jobs
in
City Hall.
She said.
And I understand that, but the problem with that is that many of our folks have left Boston. So with this so I think they're taking a look at this residency clause, because it doesn't apply to everyone. Some folks live out of the city that are working for the city. They're grandfathered in. I mean, it's become so confusing. I don't know what to. I know when I worked for the city of Boston, I lived in the city. When I moved to Milton, I resigned from my job, and so. But that's not happening. So I don't even know how that rule, the grandfathered in, it applies to the police department, fire department. I don't know if it's teachers. I know there are teachers that live outside the city. The other thing I do want to bring up, what I've noticed in Boston, in the black community, we don't even have trees. We don't even have trees.
Aren't they all mowed down by the cars?
No, there's buildings there now. There's buildings, condos, and bricks and cement. And that's what makes it so hot in the city. And, I got a good taste of that this summer when I was campaigning. It was burning hot, right? So, I mean, these are things that, I love the point about comparing the disparities in the different neighborhoods. I think that's a good way, looking at the bigger picture, to Jamal's point, to really show them in living color what's going on. So, yeah, man, we got a lot of work to do. And again, let's not just talk about it. Let's just go ahead and do it. Even if we just start all over. Because right now, I see folks meeting to meet. And nothing's getting done. Maybe I'm missing it because I'm not at the meetings. But I don't see anything of substance.
Well, we have 1 minute to go, and we have to go to station ID, and we're gonna play. Jamal Crawford's favorite song, Larry Wool's song, because that's how we wake up Jamal on Fridays. We just play Larry.
My favorite one is actually the one that goes diddly diddly dunk the folks.
Yeah, me too. I like that one too. I love that. that is kind of sharp.
And who tell people before we go, who are we going to go to now to get the music?
Prince Charles Alexander,
okay.
And get some of the students. We got to get some younger bloods up here, and do it in your lingo. So you can reach some young people.
Wait a minute. If I said that I wanted to write a song and sing it for the station, you don't feel I should do it because I'm not younger? That's what you just said.
No, I think we should go to station break. We'll be right back.
Goodbye, you two.
Later.
Okay. Washington Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts, zip code 02124. We're on this FM station from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Saturday and 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. Although we will be off of the FM signal until tomorrow, we will still be on the internet, television, and social media. Keep watching and listening to us throughout the day on www.bostonpraiseradio.tv, Roku TV, Apple TV, Shellcast Internet Radio, TuneIn Internet Radio, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, Audio Now, and 21 other media outlets.
Oh, I can get the witnesses. Is he a good God? This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. Everybody, lift your voice. This is the air I breathe. Everybody say, this is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe, yeah. Oh, and your holy presence living in me, yes it is. Not only that, but your word is my daily bread. Come on, somebody. This is my daily bread. It's your word that gives me life. It's your word that gives me breath. This is my daily bread. Your very word. Your very word. Spoken to
the voice of the church in New England. The views and opinions expressed by the following paid program are those of the program producers, and they do not reflect the views and opinion of Boston Praise Radio, its staff, or management.
Hi, this is Mike D of the UA7 Gospel Countdown, Urban America's 7 biggest current songs and more. Join us in fellowship with our broadcast on www.bostonpraiseradio.tv, Roku TV, and WBPG 102.9 FM radio. These TV and radio networks are all coming out of Boston. Radio and TV that cares about Boston and beyond. This is yours sincerely, Mike D of the UA7 Gospel Countdown. Tune in and be blessed.
This is Renee Wise, station manager for the Boston Praise Radio and TV network of 30 radio, TV, social media, and internet stations. You can broadcast on our network by just giving me a call, 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685.
unraveled. Giving the Boston police officers quite a bit of information about what had transpired. And
what do y'all want forward, remember?
If you're wanting, you're waiting, you're hoping, I know you're praying that those policing us and racial profiling us, please stop killing black men